Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever really stopped to think about how profoundly art mirrors a nation's identity, its journey through history? It's so much more than just, pretty pictures or sculptures. It feels like a living testament.
Absolutely. It tells you who people are, where they've been, what they dreamed about, what they struggled with. It's all embedded in there.
Exactly. So today we're taking a really fascinating journey. We're diving deep, really deep into the rich, vibrant, and honestly often surprising world of Philippine art history.
And what's truly fascinating, I think, about this deep dive is how it lets us trace not just artistic styles changing over time,
Right.
but also these huge societal shifts, this tapestry of different cultural influences coming in and, well, the incredible resilience of the Filipino people. It's all there, seen through the lens of their creativity.
Yeah.
Our sources, they give us this incredible roadmap, really, charting centuries of innovation, adaptation, artistic output. It's quite something.
And we'll see how art served so many different purposes, right? Not just one thing.
It's exactly from deep spiritual beliefs to really powerful political statements, even adapting to, commercial demands later on. It's incredibly versatile.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from all this information we have on Philippine art history. We're going from the very beginning, the pre-colonial times, right up to what artists are doing, right now in the contemporary period.
Yeah.
Think of this as your shortcut, maybe, to getting really well informed about this amazing artistic heritage. There's some surprising facts in here, and the way the styles evolve, it's like watching a nation's soul develop.
And we're going to tackle it chronologically. That seems the clearest way.
Makes sense?
Yeah, it helps us see how each period sort of builds on or sometimes reacts against what came before.
Right, you see the connections.
We'll connect those dots, yeah. Understand how the techniques changed, what the symbols meant, and crucially, how it all mirrored the changing social, political, cultural landscapes of the Philippines. It's this compelling story of transformation, but always with this deep-rooted cultural continuity underneath.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning then, laying the foundation in what we call the pre-colonial period.
The deep roots.
Exactly. And this is where it gets, I think, incredibly interesting, because it shows this sophisticated culture that existed long before outsiders arrived.
Long before this band?
Long before the Americans. Filipino artists were already creating these incredible works, and they were deeply woven into daily life, into spiritual practices, into their core beliefs. This wasn't just, art for art's sake.
No, not at all. It was art for life. And it's profoundly insightful, actually, to see how foundational these early forms were to the people's identity.
How so?
Well, they weren't just decorative things. They were functional, first off, but also packed with symbolism, expressing spiritual beliefs, outlining social structures, even documenting daily life.
Okay.
When you connect that to the bigger picture, you really see how these things communicated their whole worldview, their understanding of the cosmos, their relationship with nature, their community values. It's all in there.
So where do we start? What's a key example?
Well, one of the most enduring and, frankly, revealing forms from this ancient time is ceramics.
Okay,
Pottery, basically, yeah. Any product made by fire materials, usually clay. Sounds simple, but the complexity and artistry in early Filipino ceramics, it's a testament to their technological skill and artistic sense.
And the most famous example has to be
The Manunggul jar. Without a doubt, it's like an aha moment for understanding indigenous beliefs.
Right, found in Palawan.
In the Tabon Caves, yes. It's a secondary burial jar, funerary vessel. Imagine this beautifully made earthenware jar, intricate designs carved into it. But the real marvel is the cover. It shows a boat, clear as day, carrying two human figures.
Wow.
And this isn't just decoration. It's a profound sculpture representing the prehistoric Filipino belief in the soul's journey to the afterlife, the boat of the dead.
So it tells us about their view of death.
Exactly. And the cosmos. They saw death not as an end, but as a voyage. This jar literally depicts that voyage.
That's incredible. A vessel not just for remains, but for the spirit's journey itself. It elevates the everyday object into something deeply spiritual.
Precisely.
What about other ceramics? Were they all this symbolic or more focused on daily life?
Well, you see a whole range of functional ceramics that were absolutely vital for everyday living. There's the Burnay.
Okay, what's that?
It's the Ilocano term for these large earthenware jars, mainly for storage preserving grain, fermenting local drinks like basili, holding water. Practical stuff, showing they knew about preservation.
Right.
Then you have the tapayan. That's a Southern Tagalog term for a similar large water jar. crucial in a tropical climate.
Exactly.
The palioke is your basic cooking pot, essential for preparing food. And the smaller banga was specifically for storing drinking water, often kept cool by the clay itself.
Ingenious.
And don't forget the Vigan tiles. Those distinctive red, high-polished terracotta tiles you see in Vigan's old architecture shows ceramics moving into building materials too.
Okay.
So all these different forms, they paint this really complete picture. Daily life, spiritual beliefs like with the manungal jar, and serious tech skills in working with clay and fire.
From clay and fire, let's move to threads. Weaving. That sounds like another incredibly important art form.
Oh, absolutely. Weaving is this profound, vibrant expression of cultural identity. It shows immense skill, obviously, but it also embeds narratives right into the patterns and colors.
Narratives, like stories.
Yeah, or symbols representing status, ritual meanings. It wasn't just about clothing. It played a key role in society. Think about the Banig.
The sleeping mat.
Exactly. Hand-woven, usually from reeds or leaves, primarily for sleeping or sitting. Seems simple, right? But it was everywhere. Incredibly important in every household, showing that connection to natural materials and communal life.
And then there are the more visually striking textiles, like the malang.
Yes, the malang from the Maguindanao people. These beautiful tubular skirts, often with these incredible complex ikat designs.
And the tinalak from the taboli.
Another amazing example. A tie-dye fabric they meticulously create, often inspired by dreams. Very spiritual connection there.
You mentioned ikat. What exactly is that process? It sounds complicated.
It is complicated. Ikat is a very specialized, very labor-intensive weaving style. It uses resist dyeing, kind of like tie-dye.
Okay.
But here's the key difference. The patterns are dyed onto the threads before they're woven.
Before? Wow.
Yeah, so sections of the warp or weft threads are carefully tied off, dyed, untied, maybe tied off again for another color. It's painstaking.
You'd have to plan the whole pattern out in your head on the threads.
Exactly. It requires incredible precision, foresight, math skills even. Then you weave those pre-dyed threads and the pattern emerges. That's why ikat often has those characteristics, slightly blurred edges to the designs.
Ah, I see.
And those patterns, they often carry deep symbolic meaning. Myths, nature, ancestors, weaving stories right into the cloth.
Incredible dedication and skill, blending art and pure technique. Now, slightly different but related basketry seems less glamorous maybe, but essential.
Absolutely essential. Basketry is the artful process of making containers by weaving natural materials.
Right.
And while maybe less decorated sometimes, baskets were crucial for storage, transport, even rituals. It shows amazing ingenuity using what's around bamboo, rattan, palm leaves to create sturdy, versatile, often beautifully patterned containers for everything from carrying harvests to storing belongings.
Okay, so weaving fibers into cloth and weaving plant matter into containers makes sense. Then we move to metalwork. This suggests another level of technology, right?
Definitely. Metalwork implies knowledge of smelting, forging, casting, more complex processes.
Right. What are some key examples here?
Well, you have pieces that are both beautiful and culturally loaded. Take the linglingo.
Okay.
It's an ifugao fertility symbol, usually worn as a pendant. That distinctive, often double-headed or omega shape. It represents fertility, prosperity, and maybe the cycle of life, the connection between generations. Very potent symbol.
Right.
And then there's the gadur. This is a Murano ceremonial vessel, usually brass, often intricately engraved, used mainly for things like wedding gifts or important social exchanges.
So status and ritual again.
Exactly. It highlights its role in culture, social hierarchy, wealth exchange. These pieces show sophisticated metalworking techniques, forging, casting, decorating. They weren't just pretty objects. They had vital social rituals, symbolic jobs to do. Shows skill and deep cultural meaning.
And that brings us to sculpture in the pre-colonial period. This feels like it really encapsulates a lot of the spiritual beliefs and social structures we've been touching on.
It really does. Let's look at some examples. The Bulul.
The Ifugao rice god figure.
Yes. But it's more than just a statue. It's a sacred icon, central to harvest rituals. People believed it guarded the rice crop, brought prosperity. Its stylized form, often kind of squat, angular, it embodies that protective spirit.
Okay.
Then there's the kinidbiget, or kinabaget.
Yeah.
This is actually the central post, the king post, in a specific type of Ifugao house.
An architectural element.
Primarily, yes. Structural.
Yeah.
But it was often carved, giving it spiritual meaning. It literally holds up the house, but also maybe the spiritual world within it. The backbone.
Interesting.
And the hagin. And another Ifugao piece. This is a huge wooden bench, carved from a single tree trunk with this distinctive arch middle section.
Just a bench.
Not just a bench. It was the ultimate symbol, absolute proof of wealth and high status in the community. Only the richest families could commission one. It was a massive undertaking.
So a very visible status symbol, like a Rolls Royce made of wood.
Kind of, yeah. A very public declaration of success.
What about other types of sculptures? Animals? Decorations?
Well, you have the Binabai Ifago pig sculptures. Pigs were important for feasts, sacrifices, prosperity, so these likely relate to that.
Okay.
And moving south, especially among the Tausug and Maranao people, you find this pervasive, incredibly distinctive design motif called ukil by the Tausug, or ukir by the Maranao.
Ukil or okir, what does it look like?
It's this intricate, flowing leaf and vine pattern, curvilinear, organic. You see it everywhere. Wood carvings, metalwork, textiles. Its symbolic depth, it's huge, represents life, growth, interconnectedness. Often subtly blends plant and animal forms too, reflecting Islamic artistic traditions mixed with local styles.
And the Ceremoniac, that's famous.
Very famous. The mythical bird, central to Maranao culture, often shown with a fish in its beak or claws. It symbolizes abundance, good fortune, and acts as a messenger between worlds, earthly and spiritual. Very vibrant, very recognizable image.
So looking at all this pre-colonial sculpture, the Bulul, Hagabi, Ukil, Ceremoniac, what's the big takeaway?
The takeaway is that these aren't just pretty objects. They're deeply functional art, intertwined with survival, spirituality, social structure, their understanding of nature. It reveals this rich, complex society with a highly developed artistic sense long before any colonizers arrived.
A really strong foundation. But
Yeah.
then the narrative shifts dramatically. We transition into the Spanish colonial art period, 16th century onwards, and a new force arrives, the Catholic faith.
And the Spanish wielded art as an incredibly powerful tool
How so?
for propagating the faith, mainly, using beautiful, compelling images to catechize, inspire devotion, frankly, to exert control and influence. It's a massive departure from the indigenous forms and purposes we just discussed. New subjects, new patrons, new techniques flood in.
And what's fascinating there is seeing how art becomes this key instrument of evangelization. It fundamentally changes Filipino artistic expression.
Absolutely. You get new forms, the altarpiece, for instance. New techniques like oil on canvas. Totally new subjects focused on Christian stories, saints, martyrs.
So the big question is, how did the existing indigenous art, the local traditions, respond? Did they just disappear?
Not entirely. And that's where it gets really interesting. You see this fascinating, often unexpected cultural synthesis happening. Local artists adapt the European styles, yes, but they use local materials, sometimes subtly change features, infuse them with a distinct Filipino sensibility. It's a blend.
Let's start with paintings.
Yeah.
Who are the key figures here emerging under Spanish influence?
Well, one of the earliest we know of is Josef Luciano Dans, active roughly 1805 to 1870.
Okay.
His major work, Langit Lupa et Infierno, Heaven, Earth, and Hell, from around 1850, is a perfect example of religious painting as a visual sermon.
Heaven, Earth, and Hell. Sounds intense.
It is. It's a huge 3-level painting, like a giant comic book teaching Catholic doctrine. Top level, Holy Trinity, Mary, Saints Heaven. Middle, earthly life, the 7 sacraments. Bottom level,
Hell.
yep, vivid macabre, pretty graphic depiction of hell and its torments. A very powerful visual tool to inspire piety and, let's be honest, fear.
Wow. Talk about didactic art. And then there's Damian Domingo, a really pivotal figure.
Hugely pivotal. Damian Domingo y Gabor, active around 1790 to 1832. He was probably the most popular artist working in the tipos de país style.
Tipos del país, types of the country.
Exactly. These were exquisite watercolor paintings showing different inhabitants of the Philippines in their native costumes. They're fascinating because they show social status, occupation, ethnicity, like a visual catalog of colonial society.
Examples.
Oh, he painted a Visayan woman in her best dress, a laborer, a sophisticated mestiza woman, even one called Estudiante Blues. Charming stuff.
But he did more than just paint these types, right?
Much more. He was a visionary. He opened the Academia de Dibujo y Pintura, the first formal fine arts school in the country.
In his own house?
In his house.
He
Amazing.
laid the groundwork for formal art education, nurturing local talent. Huge impact.
And another artist working in that tipos del país vein was Jose Honorato Lozano, but with a twist.
He had a very unique, very popular style called letras y figuras, letters and figures. Letters and figures? How did that work?
He cleverly combined the tipos del país idea with genre scenes by forming the letters of a patron's name out of little figures of people in local costumes doing everyday things.
Seriously, spelling out names with tiny people.
Exactly. often with detailed landscapes in the background. So each piece was personalized, whimsical, a detailed snapshot of colonial life and the person who commissioned it. Very clever.
That's incredible. Now, we have to talk about the two artists who really put Philippine art on the international map during this period.
Ah, yes. Luna and Hidalgo. Watershed moments.
Juan Novicio Luna. He became the first Filipino artist to win a gold medal at the big Madrid exposition in 1884.
For his massive painting, Spoliarium. Huge dramatic canvas. Shows dying gladiators being dragged away under the Roman arena. It's a powerful statement about suffering, oppression. It resonated deeply.
And alongside him, Felix Resurrection Hidalgo.
Also won a major prize at the same 1884 exposition. A silver medal for his work. Virgenes Cristianas expuestas al populacho. Christian virgins exposed to the populace. Another intense dramatic scene of persecution.
These awards weren't just personal wins, were they?
No, they were huge. Monumental affirmations of Filipino artistic talent on the world stage. Challenged colonial stereotypes about capability. Really important.
And there was also Simon Flores, sometimes called the first homegrown master.
Yes, Simon Flores. He's significant too. He also went to Domingo's academia. And he was actually the first native Filipino painter to win an international award.
Before Luna and Hidalgo.
Yes. His painting, La Música del Pueblo, the music of the town, won silver at the Philadelphia Universal Exposition in 1876.
And he's associated with a particular style, miniaturismo?
Right. Though the source just labels him with it, it implies he worked in or influenced this style. Miniaturismo isn't just small paintings, it's about exquisite detail, precision, a really polished finish, especially in portraits, religious scenes. Meticulous rendering of fabric, lace, faces gives this intimate realism.
So all these painters, they show this blend, European styles, local subjects, religious themes, but also this emerging sense of local identity in the Tipos del País.
Exactly, and those international awards were crucial validation.
Okay, let's shift from canvas to three dimensions. Sculpture in the Spanish colonial period, the focus here seems overwhelmingly religious.
Almost entirely. Serving the needs of the church was paramount, and the most prominent, often most spectacular form was the retablo.
The giant altarpiece behind the altar.
That's the one. Large, elaborate, usually tiered. It houses the tabernacle, the image of the town's patron saint, often loads of other saints arranged hierarchically. People called it a cabinet of saints.
A cabinet of saints, I like that.
The term itself, retablo, comes from Mexico, meaning behind the altar. We see amazing craftsmanship, like in a side altar in Imao, Bohol wood, by an unknown artist, but incredible skill. And the retablos themselves are covered in art-carved leaves, cherubs, columns, combining carving, gilding, painting.
So it's architecture, furniture, and devotional art all in one massive piece. What other sculptural forms were common?
You also see reliefs, carved images in relief, usually on church walls or parts of the altar, often depicting the Via Crucis, the Way of the Cross, Christ's Passion story, or other holy scenes, visual aids for prayer and teaching.
Right.
And then, of course, individual santos, standalone religious images, statues of Christ, Mary, various saints, usually carved from wood, sometimes ivory, maybe terracotta. A Pieta Mary holding the dead Christ would be a classic example, often by anonymous but highly skilled sculptors. These were central to church worship, but also to home altars.
Given the huge demand for religious statues, who were the key sculptors?
Well, the earliest one we know by name is Juan de los Santos, way back, active around 1590 to 1660. Some of his works might be in the San Agustin Museum. Shows that early adaptation of European iconography by local hands. Much later, you have Isabelo Tempinco, born 1850. He got formal training at the Escuela de Artes y Oficios, talented woodcarver. His Busto de Madera, a wood bust from 1876, was actually one of the two pieces representing the Philippines at that same Philadelphia Expo where Simon Flores won his medal.
International recognition for sculpture too, then.
Yes. And another interesting form is the Bastidor Santos. These are like mannequin figures, just the head and hands maybe, on a wooden frame, the Bastidor. They were made to be dressed in real, elaborate clothes and jewelry.
Dressing up the saints.
Literally. Added another layer of artistry and grandeur, a bit of Baroque theatricality mixed with local devotion. So yeah, the religious purpose drove almost all colonial sculpture. But it's fascinating how local craft adapted, sometimes subtly changing features, making the saints look a bit more Filipino, blending old beliefs with the new faith.
A complex interaction. Now, what about graphic arts? Printing, images. How did they fit into the colonial project?
Graphic arts were absolutely crucial for mass communication, teaching doctrine, spreading the faith. The number one example, La Doctrina Cristiana a la Lengua Española y Tagala.
The first book printed in the Philippines, 1593.
That's the one, published by the Dominicans. And significantly, it had woodcut engravings, like one of St. Dominic, made by Juan de Vera, who was a Chinese convert. Shows that early cross-cultural mix, even in printing.
And beyond books.
You had estampas and estampitas. These were prints, usually small, often inexpensive, of miraculous images, saints, religious scenes, prayers. They made these images accessible to everyone, even people who couldn't read. Powerful tools for spreading Catholicism into homes and communities everywhere.
Okay, so we've gone from indigenous functional art to church-dominated art. Now another big shift, the American Colonial Period. What happens to art now?
Well, you definitely see a shift away from that overwhelming religious focus. New patrons emerged, the Americans themselves, a growing Filipino middle and upper class, even tourists looking for souvenirs.
And there's a growing sense of national identity, right? Even under a new colonizer.
Exactly. So the art of this period, it reflects this kind of dual narrative. On one hand, you see themes that align with American presence, maybe pacification efforts, but on the other, you see this budding sense of Filipino nationhood expressing itself, sometimes subtly.
How did the styles change?
American influence brought changes. More emphasis on idealized landscapes, genre scenes, everyday life, but often romanticized. And importantly, you start seeing art with undertones of political commentary, even if veiled.
Let's look at paintings first in this American era. Who are the big names?
A key figure, really setting the tone for the 20th century, is Fabian de la Rosa, active 1869-1937. Very influential, he was the first dean of the UP Fine Arts School.
And his style?
Known for realistic portraits, detailed genre paintings, landscapes, but often in more subdued naturalistic colors compared to the Spanish academic style. Think works like Rice, showing harvesting, El Cundiman, courtship song, or his paintings of women. They convey this quiet dignity of Filipino life during a time of change.
And then the artist whose name is almost synonymous with this period's idealized vision, Fernando Amorsolo.
Fernando Amorsolo Cueto, 1892-1972. Absolutely iconic. He was maybe the first and certainly one of the best at capturing that specific brilliant Philippine sunlight.
The golden tone.
Exactly. His signature style. It gave his canvases this radiant, almost magical glow. Especially famous are his depictions of the Dalagang Bukid, the smiling country maiden, archetypal.
So a very positive, romanticized view.
Very much so. Idealized, sun-drenched, bountiful, peaceful countryside. Works like Mango, Under the Arbor, A Basket of Mangoes, the Palay Maiden, Planting Rice. They created this powerful, comforting visual identity of the Philippines. Beautiful, abundant, idyllic. Very popular, especially during a period of transition and uncertainty.
So De La Rosa's quiet realism versus Amorsolo's radiant idealism, two different ways of picturing the nation.
Both incredibly influential in shaping that visual representation.
Okay, turning to sculpture during the American period, who stands out?
One name dominates. Guillermo Tolentino, 1890-1976. He trained in Rome, so his style is very classical, idealized forms, heroic feel, technical brilliance.
But not just copying classical themes.
No, and that's key. He applied that classical skill to distinctly Filipino and often very nationalist themes. His sculptures often carried significant political weight.
Like what?
Well, his most famous is probably the Oblation at the University of the Philippines. That bronze nude figure, arms outstretched, symbolizing selfless service, academic freedom, offering oneself to the nation.
Iconic.
Absolutely. And the massive Bonifacio monument in Caloocan, a whole complex commemorating Andres Bonifacio and the revolution.
Yeah.
Very powerful history lesson in bronze.
Any works that were more directly political?
Yes. Filipinas in Bondage. The title says it all, really. An allegorical piece showing a female figure representing the Philippines, constrained. A clear statement about the colonial situation. Tolentino used his classical training as a voice for Filipino identity and aspirations.
So, the American period sees art solidifying national identity, sometimes idyllically, sometimes politically. A clear move from the Spanish focus. Okay, let's unpack this. The next phase, the modern period in the Philippines, feels like a real rupture, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. A fascinating, sometimes turbulent break. Artists start seriously questioning the established norms, especially that Amorsolo school style, the idealized, sunny scenes.
It's like a rebellion with brushes and canvases.
You could say that. It's a rebellion against what they saw as conservative, maybe even stagnant art.
And what's driving this rebellion?
Well, what's fascinating is how it mirrors the global modernist movement filtering into the Philippines. Artists worldwide were looking for new ways to express the complexities of their time War, politics, changing society.
Moving beyond realism or romanticism.
Exactly. Beyond traditional academic styles, beyond idealized visions, they wanted to embrace abstraction, expressionism, social commentary. It was a time of intense experimentation, wanting to connect with international art but still rooted in local realities.
Were there hints of this coming, even earlier? Seeds of modernism?
There were. Subtle ones. Look at Miguel Zaragoza, active earlier, considered an early master. Known for portraits, illustrations for La Ilustración Filipina. He was a painter, writer, teacher, studied in Madrid as a pensionado.
Okay.
But the key thing is, in the 1890s, he did some work using pointillism.
Pointillism, like Surat, dots of color.
Exactly, that European post-impressionist technique, applying small dots of pure color that the eye blends. His works like Filipina, Juego de la Siesta use this. It was a quiet introduction of a new European technique, subtly questioning the dominant style. He was like a bridge figure, planting those early seeds.
And then came the big guns, the triumvirate, the pioneers who really kicked off Philippine modern art.
Yes. These three directly challenged the Amorsolo school, pushing art toward expressionism, nationalism, less idealized views. First, Victorio C. Edades, 1895-1985. He is widely recognized, deservedly, as the father of Philippine modern art.
What was his work like?
Radically different. Look at the artist The Sketch or his powerful work The Builders. His figures were often distorted, rougher. Colors were more muted, somber. He focused on themes of labor, the common person, a grittier, more modern feel that shocked people used to Amorsolo.
A real contrast. Who else was in this triumvirate?
Galo Biocampo, 1913-1985. He did something incredibly significant with his painting, The Brown Madonna.
The Brown Madonna.
Yes, he took Western religious iconography, the Madonna and Child, and depicted them with clearly Filipino features in a Filipino setting. He Filipinized the sacred, made it directly relevant to local identity. Hugely important move. He also did works like Deposition.
Wow. That's bold for the time. And the third member?
Carlos Putong Francisco, the Engano-based painter, famous for his huge murals depicting Philippine history and folklore.
Like the History of Manila mural.
Exactly, at Manila City Hall. His style was unique, trademark fluid lines, brilliant, almost pulsating colors filling the whole space. He created this sense of vibrant movement, epic narrative. And importantly, he ignored the strict rules of linear perspective taught by the Academy. His compositions felt more organic, more Filipino in their rhythm.
So these three daddies, Ocampo, Botong Francisco, they really broke the mold, each in their own way.
Absolutely. Marked a clear departure, ushered in the modern period proper.
Okay, so the triumvirate lays the groundwork. Then we get a whole group, the 13 moderns. What was their deal?
The 13 moderns were a crucial group that really pushed things forward. They were reacting against that older academic style of Luna and Hidalgo, but maybe even more strongly against Amorsolo's sweet style.
They felt it wasn't relevant anymore.
Pretty much. Too romanticized, didn't reflect contemporary life and its struggles. This group included key figures like Diosdado Lorenzo, Besaman and Sala, Hernando Arocampo, Cesar Legazpi, Demetrio Diego, and others like Bonifacio Cristobal, Jose Pardo, Arsenio Capilli, Ricardo Purunganan. They wanted new forms, a rawer Filipino experience.
Who are some standouts from this group and what did they bring?
Well, Vicente Manansala, 1910-1981, is huge, considered the major proponent of Cubism in the Philippines.
Cubism, like Picasso. Fragmented shapes.
Yes, but he adapted it brilliantly to Philippine subjects. Think of his jeepneys capturing the energy of Manila's iconic transport with those overlapping plains. Or his 14 Stations of the Cross at the UP Chapel. Or Madonna of the Slums showing urban poverty through that fragmented Cubist lens. Powerful social commentary.
Okay, who else?
Hernando Arocampo, or H.R. Ocampo, 1911-1978. He formed a sort of triumvirate of neorealists with Manansala and Cesar Legazpi. His work was very nationalistic, reflecting the harsh realities after World War II.
Neorealist, meaning?
Focused on representing reality, often the tougher side, but in modern styles, not just traditional realism. And significantly, Ocampo is credited with probably the first purely non-representational abstract art in the Philippines. His work Genesis is a key example using abstract shapes and colors to evoke creation.
Pure abstraction, that's a big leap. And Cesar Legazpi, the third neorealist.
Yes, Cesar Legazpi, 1917-1994, remembered for depicting the masses, the working class, often showed their struggles, the toil of industrial labor. His work Gadgets is a strong piece, maybe critiquing the dehumanizing side of modern machinery.
And we can't forget Anita Magsaysay Ho from this group. Her style is so distinctive.
Instantly recognizable. Those sharply outlined figures of peasant women, usually wearing bandanas, doing daily chores, chasing chickens, planting, harvesting.
And the way she paints them?
Thin, elegant figures, long necks, slanted eyes, sort of flattened noses. It's a unique, graceful interpretation of the Filipino figure. Mending the Nets is a classic example, capturing the dignity in community and labor.
So the 13 Moderns as a group really pushed art towards abstraction, social commentary, a much more raw view of reality, especially after the war.
Immense impact. And this raises a really interesting question for us. How do these new styles, Manansal's Cubism, Ocampo's abstraction, Legazpi's neorealism, how do they help Filipinos process and understand the huge changes happening around them? Art often gives us that lens, doesn't it?
It really does. A way to interpret and respond. Now, beyond the 13 Moderns, there were other really influential artists who shaped the modern period, pushing in different directions.
Oh, absolutely. The field really diversified. For instance, Fernando Zobel, 1924-84, a prominent abstract painter, won the AAP competition. His work, Rosa, is fascinating.
The one based on a Fiesta carriage?
Right. But it's almost completely abstract. A minimalist take on this very traditional scene shows how he could distill cultural moments into modern forms.
And Jose Joya.
The country's leading abstract expressionist. Think bold, gestural, spontaneous energy. Works like Space Transfiguration or Abstraction 58. They're like explosions of color and movement. Very emotive, very free.
Then there's Ang Kyukok. His work feels intense.
Very intense, often angular, stark, emotional. Works like Crucified, Man and Woman, Fish. It's kind of cubist expressionist style, conveying deep human suffering, but also resilience. Powerful stuff.
And Malang Santos. He started as a cartoonist.
Yes, and you can see that bright disposition in his paintings. Vivid, joyful colors. His style is abstract representations of Philippine icons, nipa huts, trees, flowers, churches, caravels, people. It's like a tropical kaleidoscope full of warmth and homeland feel. Watermelon's a great example.
A happier vibe. What about Arturo Luz, national artist?
His work is quite different. Best known for minimalist, geometric abstracts, very clean lines, simplified forms. People talk about modernist virtues in his work, competence, order, elegance. It feels universal, aspiring to a kind of pure Asian modernity. Think Lavandera Awit, Bagong Tyne trio, very refined.
And in sculpture, during this modern period.
The key figure is Napoleon Abueva, born in 1930, often called the father of Philippine modern sculpture.
How did he change sculpture?
He moved towards highly stylized, simplified, eventually abstract forms, clearly influenced by international figures like Henry Moore and Brancusi, emphasizing organic shapes, truth to materials. His work, Kaganapan, Fulfillment, is very moving, a pregnant woman, symbolizing creation, life.
What else did he do?
Works like The Machine, exploring industrial themes, The Crucifix, a modern take on a religious icon, many versions of Mother and Child. He really brought sculpture into the modern era in the Philippines.
So this whole modern period is just bursting with diverse styles, abstraction, expressionism, neorealism, minimalism, individual voices really emerging.
Exactly. Pushing boundaries way beyond the old academic rules, solidifying a truly modern Filipino art identity.
Okay, here's where it gets really captivating, I think. We arrive at the Filipino contemporary period, still happening now, where artists keep innovating, often looking back at tradition, but also engaging with global issues, new technologies.
Yeah, and what's fascinating now is how contemporary art often really challenges boundaries. It reinterprets history, tackles current social and political issues head-on, looks at environmental concerns. It reflects this dynamic, constantly evolving national identity in conversation with the world.
Lots of experimentation.
Huge amounts. New mediums, new technologies, conceptual approaches. Artists are using everything they can to engage critically and creatively with the complex world around them.
Who are some of the key artists defining this contemporary scene? How are they pushing things forward?
Well, let's start with Abdulmari Imao, a national artist. His great contribution was popularizing and really embedding those indigenous motifs we talked about way back, the Ukil, the Saramanak, the Naga, into the national consciousness as original Filipino creations.
Bringing those pre-colonial designs back into the spotlight.
Exactly. He's especially known for Muslim art themes. His Saramanak sculptures are instantly recognizable, showcasing and elevating that heritage.
Okay.
Roberto Chabé, a hugely influential figure, not just the founding museum director at the CCP.
The cultural center of the Philippines.
Right. But more importantly, he was a pioneer of conceptual art in the country.
Conceptual art where the idea is more important than the object.
Pretty much. Emphasizing the concept, the process, rather than just the finished aesthetic thing. His works like Pero or Psychopathology of Life really pushed the definition of what art could even be, made viewers think intellectually.
Challenging stuff. What about artists working on a larger scale, maybe public art?
Eduardo Castillo is known for that, famous for his big bronze sheet monuments. His style is often described as deconstructivist.
Meaning?
He often breaks down figures, reassembles them with this dynamic, almost explosive energy, creates a sense of movement, tension. Think of his Le Pieta at Loyola Memorial Park, a powerful modern take on that theme. Or the Spirit of Pinnacle Abandoned Monument, or the Bonifacio Shrine in Mahan Garden. Big, impactful statements engaging with history and memory.
And we absolutely have to mention national artist Benedicto Cabrera, Ben Cab. His work is so well known.
Ben Cab, yes. Revered. Known for pioneering the neo-figurative style.
Neo-figurative, bringing the human figure back.
Yes, but in contemporary ways symbolic, maybe distorted or abstracted, not just straight realism. To convey deeper meanings, his famous Sabel series is a prime example, or works like Tres, Isadora Inn. They explore themes like displacement, struggle, identity, human resilience. Very emotive, often with a strong graphic quality.
And one more, maybe someone working with unusual materials?
Ramon Orlina. He's unique both as sculptor and an architect, and his medium is primarily glass. Solid glass.
Sculpting with glass.
Yes, he cuts, grinds, polishes blocks of glass to create these incredible forms. Elegant, translucent, often geometric, playing with light and refraction. He did the Tabernacle Altar and Resurrection Cross at the Etsa Shrine and the Quadricentennial Sculpture at UST, really pushing the boundaries of that material.
So these contemporary artists, Imao, Chabe, Castrillo, Ben Cab, Orlina, they show how artists today are engaging with heritage, exploring new materials, pushing concepts, tackling social issues. Art is still very much alive and evolving.
Absolutely. And this brings up another question for you, our listener. How do these contemporary artists, with their unique viewpoints and materials, manage to both preserve tradition and redefine what Filipino art means in our globalized world? How do they keep it relevant?
That's a great point. So, wrapping this all up, what does this entire journey mean? We've gone from ancient burial jars, functional, spiritual items, through centuries of Spanish colonial influence, the grand religious altar pieces, then the sun-drenched scenes of the American period, then the explosion of the modern period, abstraction, grappling with identity. It's an incredible sweep, a real deep dive into a nation's soul.
It really is. And what's fascinating looking back is how the whole story is this dynamic narrative of cultural synthesis, incredible resilience against outside forces, and constant innovation.
Art as a mirror.
Always. Reflecting the societal changes, colonial impacts, political shifts, but always, somehow, expressing that enduring spirit of the Filipino people. From the practical spirituality of pre-colonial times to the conceptual work today, that thread of Filipino-ness, however you define it, stays remarkably consistent, even through massive changes. It's a distinct art history.
Yeah, and knowing this history, it isn't just about looking at nice things in a museum, is it?
Not at all.
It's about understanding the forces, historical, social, spiritual, that shaped a whole culture, its identity, seeing how people across centuries express their deepest beliefs, their struggles, their dreams through creativity. So as you reflect on this whole journey through Philippine art, maybe consider this. How do those choices artists make, materials, subjects, styles, how do they really capture the spirit of their specific time and place? And then looking around today, what might contemporary art, with all its boundary pushing, be telling us about our own present and maybe our future?
And building on that, here's a final thought for you, our listener. Given the incredible adaptability, the creativity, the resilience we've seen again and again in Philippine art history, what do you think might be the next major influence or defining characteristic to emerge in Filipino artistic expression? And how might that reflect the ongoing journey of the nation itself?